On this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast, 5 money rules.
Welcome to the Crushing Debt Podcast with your host, Florida attorney Sean Yesner, where our goal is to help you get rid of the financial bullies in your life.
So welcome back to this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast. My name is Sean Yesner, owner and founder of Yesner Law, and we've got George Curbelo here with us. Welcome back, George.
Your financial coach here. Doing well, man. How you doing?
Good. Just getting over, I guess, after 2.5 years, the COVID bug finally caught up to us, but we're all done. We've all quarantined. We're all testing negative. We're all fine. It actually just felt like a pretty bad sinus bug, but other than that, everyone's doing good. How about you?
I'm glad to hear that. Same here. We got our shirts as well. Got the COVID bug and won that free shirt, the ugly shirt in here in Florida. But we're doing well, man. I appreciate the fact that we did survive and everybody's back to school. Get the kids out the door. That's at this time too.
Absolutely. School, as we record, school started this week. I mean, as the episode comes out, we'll be a couple weeks in, but as we record, school just started, so it's nice to go back to an empty house and have some peace and quiet.
I'm just glad they have something to do, because my kids staring at the phones and figuring out, like, Dad, I'm bored. I'm like, ooh, man, there's some work out there for you. Let's go send you out and do that. But I'm glad they're back and learning something new.
The first day of school, both of my kids were up at like 5 a.m, ready to go. Now, the next 2 days after that, it was like, having to shake them to wake up at 6 o'clock to get up and out. But whatever, we were back into our school routine. So a couple of announcements. We've got a couple of topics, George and I, to talk about on this week's episode. Before we get there, a couple of administrative stuff that we want to get out of the way. So George and I are launching, maybe even by the time this episode comes out, have launched a Patreon page. So we appreciate everybody that has listened to the show. We appreciate that you listen to the show, and it is absolutely free to listen. It will remain free to listen, but we did want to set up a Patreon page for those of you that want to give us a little bit more support. And so we'll let you know if we get it up and running by the time this show posts. I'll put the link in the show notes. Otherwise, I'm sure we'll be talking about it in coming weeks. But some of the things that we wanted to do for all of you. So I think the first level is just if you want to support the show. If you like the show and you want to do something more than subscribing, more than just giving us a positive review, if you want to throw us a couple of bucks, you can do that. The second tier, I think if I remember right, is access. So we're videoing these episodes now. So not only can you listen on whatever podcast player you happen to be listening to, but we're going to figure out how to get these up on video. And so the second tier is you'll get either early access to those videos, behind the scenes access to those videos. So you'll actually be able to listen to these episodes before they're actually released on whatever podcast player you're listening to. We've also got a tier where we're going to start doing some seminars and webinars, and so you'll have guaranteed access at that Patreon level. If we do end up charging for a seminar or a webinar, we're not going to charge you anything more than what you're donating on the Patreon page, and you'll get guaranteed seating, guaranteed access to those webinars. We've got shout outs that we can do on the show, sponsorships that we can do on the show. So we'll be setting all those tiers. We'll be getting you some more information. Thank you, George, for holding me accountable and forcing me to get that page up and running.
Yeah, man, think about it, though. I mean, we're looking for growth in the podcast. We want to be able to provide you with more. What that means, that's what we got to figure out together. But obviously, having you guys more involved, having questions, being able to control the topics and the conversations itself, maybe call-ins, maybe, voicemails, so that we can kind of drive the conversation. All of this is what we're thinking about. Obviously, we just need your help and support, and that's what we're looking for through this process.
Yeah, all of it's designed really to give back to all of you, to thank you all for being listeners. And part of it is it does cost some money to produce the show, and we've got sponsors that help offset some of those costs, but Yesner Law picks up whatever the sponsors can't, and so the more we can bring in, the better off we can be. Speaking of sponsors, I want to talk about Mark Purvis, our editor, the one that makes us sound really good. So if you're watching or listening to the video, Mark had nothing to do with it.
It's real, so sorry for those watching.
But if you're listening on a podcast app, that's totally Mark. But he is our editor. He's been the editor since the beginning, takes out the ums, takes out the ahs, cleans up some of the spaces. But he has a website called legacyspotlight.com. And what Mark is looking for is if you want to record the stories, either record stories for future generations or record the stories of previous generations. Mark does it in a fun way. He is an Emmy Award-winning videographer. He's got 20 plus years of experience. Again, the website is legacyspotlight.com. You can contact him through that website, set it up. It's fun. He keeps it engaging. He's got all the cool video toys, so definitely reach out to Mark. Wow, let's get to some content here. So George found a couple of different articles. We're going to try to get in as many as we can today, but if we can't get them in today, then we'll reserve some for next week to talk about. But the first one that I want to talk about is an article from CNBC, and it's "Follow these 5 money rules while you're still young or regret it later in life," by a writer named Morgan Housel, Housel. And again, I'll link to the article in the show notes, so if you want to read the article. But George found this, and the guy's writing style is kind of in your face.
I was a little taken back, but I mean, I get the idea of where they're coming from. I really do. I just wanted to kind of throw it out to the audience. And obviously, Sean, get your opinion to kind of like, are these, I think they're good points, but a little harsh. And I guess that's what we're gonna figure out together.
A little bit of, there's a lot of suck it up buttercup in this article. So the first one that he writes about here is, accept that living below your means requires suppressing your ego to below your income. And I get it. There's no reason to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
You know, just because you've got that new job and you've got more money coming in doesn't mean you actually have to spend it.
I mean, think about it. What's the saying? We buy stuff we probably don't need for people we don't even like. Isn't that the idea?
Yeah.
So I totally understand exactly where we're coming from regarding that. It's just, again, they're suppressing your ego. That was the one that stood out a number. They get better, guys. Really, they get better.
They get a lot better.
But but totally understand. Getting to the tip itself, right? We need to live within our means. Totally understand. Not worry about what other people are doing. It's hard when we're scrolling through Instagram and all of the other social medias that are telling us, like, look at the lifestyle, look at what we're doing, look what a car I'm driving, and I go outside, I'm looking, and I'm like, yeah, I got an like an '08 kind of jalopy, and I'm like, wait a second, 4 wheels and an engine? Sign me up. That's what I usually go for.
Gets me to where I need to go. So I remember when I first got a job as an attorney in Miami, and at the time I had a little GMC Sonoma pickup truck. It was really cool because it had the third door on the driver's side, and it had the little seat in the back seat. When a buddy of mine would get hammered, we'd force him to go into that little seat in the back to drive him home. But I was never as popular as when I turned 21, and then when I got a pickup truck.
Nice.
When you get a pickup truck, you're everybody's best friend and you do a ton of moving. But I remember being in Miami, and one of the other associate attorneys at the firm said to me, "You're an attorney. Why do you drive a pickup truck?"
Right.
Because I liked the truck.
Yeah.
It was a cool little truck, and I liked it. And I never bought into the fact that, oh, I'm an attorney, I should be in a Mercedes or a BMW or the reason that I buy Nissans and the reason that I used to rent the Infinities, it's just because I love the car, not because of the status symbol of what kind of car it was.
Yeah, but a lot of us get hung up on that, especially if you're a doctor or lawyer itself. I mean, I wouldn't know. Sean, you could probably attest, but it's got to be like, driving this car. This is the status. It's the status symbol that we're looking for itself. Let me tell you, talking about first car, 1999 Honda Civic, New York City. That's my first car. Stick shift. Didn't even know how to drive stick. That was the first thing I was like. So I had to learn that.
I
had to learn that. No, but it had no air conditioning. So talk about, I had a car and I couldn't even be popular to be able to drive people around because everybody's sweating in the middle of August trying to get around from the city to city. So it was just little things like that. But once again, when I was that age, it was like, wow, my first car. Being able to drive around, pick up my girlfriend at that time, my wife at that time, my girlfriend, and get around and stuff. So it was just, it's a different feeling. For me, that's what was more important than the actual, we could have gotten a new Civic, but, we couldn't afford it. So it's like, this is what we can do. Let's get around in it. And that's it.
Yeah, we literally, when my wife got pregnant with our first, we bought a car and still have it. In fact, it's probably time soon to have that discussion because
there you go.
You say drive it till the wheels fall off, and literally the wheels are starting to fall off.
Got hubcaps hanging off, and
one of the door. My son basically destroyed the door. The door handle on one of the doors just fell off the car. It's probably time to get a new car. So,
so again, what's the tip here for our youngins in the beginning itself? Don't worry about status.
Yeah.
Start saving. Do what you need to do. What's valuable for you as you start young. Again, don't regret it when you get older like us.
Right.
Let's not worry about that. But what's the next one?
So the next one here, don't commit to a relationship with someone who doesn't see eye to eye on spending. I get his point is that, a lot of times people come in to see me because they need to file bankruptcy or something because of a divorce.
Yep.
I've joked all the time. What's the number one cause of divorce?
Money.
Marriage.
Oh, marriage. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, that too. Oh, sorry, my bad. Oh, look at this guy with the jokes. Okay.
But I get it. It's, the biggest driver of divorce is money troubles.
Yep.
But that's kind of a don't commit to a relationship.
Right.
I mean, if you've got a girlfriend and you're dating, go for it. I wouldn't necessarily on the first date bring up, what are your money? What's your attitude about money?
Well, to be honest with you, on the first date, you'll know that. If it's like, hey, can we go Dutch? Can we, can you pay for yours? That I didn't ask for that extra garlic bread. Could you? So that might be there. But again, I love the fact of don't commit. Like, when do you know and have the money conversation when dating? Isn't dating hard enough?
Oh, yeah.
That now, and I get it. We all talk about, spending and money. It's all part of the dating scene itself. But right now, it's like, oof, we just made it an uncomfortable conversation. It's like, well, look at the car he's driving. We just talked about cars, like what a car this person is driving, or what job they're working at itself. That to determine how much they're making.
It drives me crazy because we'll go out to a restaurant and my wife and I will want to order a drink with dinner. Not, nothing crazy, but we want to get a drink with dinner. And my wife will say, so how much is the, margarita? How much is the strawberry daiquiri? And I'm like, if we can't afford a margarita or a strawberry daiquiri, we got bigger issues.
I agree.
Order the stupid drink. Now, obviously, that's not enough for me to divorce my wife because she's asking for the price of a drink. But come on, if you want to drink, have a drink. It's not like we're going out and getting hammered and blowing our monthly budget on drinks if you want to drink with dinner, have a drink with dinner.
I think Sean's going to have a conversation tonight. He's going to be in trouble.
I am not having a conversation with my wife.
Can I just say
drinks.
in the article itself, a related personal financial hack, don't get divorced. Oh, okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Don't get divorced.
Don't get divorced.
Stay in that loveless marriage, people. That's the no. But here's for me the tip that comes out of this is communication. Have the conversations early in your dating itself to kind of see where you guys eye to eye. Because if you're first time finding out that this person loves Amazon and they're on the first name basis with them when you're like 4 months into your marriage, you're probably having some marital issues already. But these are the things of just like have the communication, talk about money. Don't worry about those kind of taboos. If you can't talk about it, you're probably already, not dating the right person. So I see where they're coming from.
And girls, give him a break if he leaves the toilet seat up, please. Please, please, please. So
that's a good plea. I like that.
Yeah. A lot of times I'll say to divorce attorneys, are the divorcing husband and wife still amicable? Because if they are, a lot of times, and one of the clues to that is that they're living in the same house while they're getting divorced because they can't afford to separate and move into different houses. And a lot of times I can maybe just bankrupt the couple and then let the divorce go final. And now they start a clean break from each other, a clean break on their finances, the whole 9 yards. But yeah, definitely divorce is one of the biggest causes that I see of bankruptcy, which is an interesting article that we will either get to this week or next week.
We got another one.
Yeah. So number 3, kind of a, water is wet.
I like it.
Avoid trouble to begin with. Duh.
Okay, once again, you'll read the article, guys, but nobody survives open heart surgery better than the guy who didn't need the procedure in the first place. Okay, we get it.
Nobody gets out of debt faster than the person who avoided it to begin with. Kind of duh.
Yes. So the tip of this one is obviously be intentional with the money, right? Know what you're doing with your money itself. Don't overspend. Live within your means. But I got to say, the one thing that did come out of this is kind of like it is so much harder to get out of debt than it is to get into it, right? You get the credit card, you do the loans, you do all these kind of things. Totally understand. But what gets us into these situations? You know what I mean? Like, you had a good foundation. I think we had a good foundation when it comes to, like, don't overuse the debt, don't do the kind of things. But I know college students, like, first thing, it's like build credit. You got to have credit to do things in life. But of course, the lesson is pay off what you can. Do what you need to do, every month, try to pay it off in full. Once again, I guess the ego in number one comes back and says, hey.
One of the first lessons my dad taught me, one of my 5 money rules is don't charge it unless you can pay off the card at the end of the month. Now, maybe there's an emergency scenario where you got to finance something or charge something, but in general, if I can't afford to pay it, I don't typically charge it.
That totally makes sense. And again, it goes back to, like, investing. We think, like, I can invest something quickly. And I can do, like, the get rich schemes, right? That's always, I feel like everything is like, you can do this course and you're now going to be able to get $40,000 in their first purchase, or do these kind of, just read the fine print. Getting rich is a slow process. Some of us get lucky in, like, having the right lotto numbers. We had an episode on that. We get that. But at the end of the day itself, I think for you is start young, save, invest with what you have, and allow for growth. Being patient is the long game to be successful when it comes to building wealth. That's kind of the thing.
Something that you said, save 10% today if you open up a store credit card.
Yep, exactly.
Well, they've found a way to get some more money out of you. You're not really saving that 10%. So again, if you've got a card and you go to a department store and you buy some new clothes and they say save 10% by opening up this new credit card today, but you can't pay off the clothes that you bought, don't open that new credit card. Use an existing credit card, charge the clothes, pay it off at the end of the month. I mean, I get it. You get 10% off, but if you're buying a $50 shirt, is it really worth the $5 to get into more debt?
Exactly. And most of us, if you look at the statistic around that, most of us, when we open up to try to get that 10%, do not pay the credit card at the end of the month. And what ends up happening, you get an interest rate of 28%. So the 10% you saved, you actually gave back in 1 month. So just little things to keep in mind there.
Yeah. So the next one here.
I think this one.
I love this one. Utilize low status, high efficiency services. And this is the author's words. This isn't me and George. We're just reading. Utilize low status, high efficiency services. And the example he gives, community college, in-state tuition, public libraries. Let me go on the record. I love public libraries. I don't believe public libraries are low status. I get a ton of my reading material, both that I borrow and check out and that I buy from my local library. So I love public libraries. I've got a ton of friends who went to community college. My mom went to community college.
Exactly.
I wouldn't call community college low status, but I think his advice here is something that we've talked about a lot of times on the show, is that you can do stuff that is low cost, not low status.
Yeah, and I think that's the word I hung on here with this article. It was like, especially the public, shout out to the public libraries here in Florida as well. Guys, if you don't have, and again, this is like unofficial, they didn't, we're not being sponsored here, but
although we could be.
Well, I'll work on that.
Patreon.
Hoopla. And there's Libby. Please, oh my goodness, guys, if you don't, visit your local library, support them in that way. But I'm guaranteeing you, if you don't use these apps today, you will love them. The amount of books you can get, audiobooks, these are resources that I agree with the author. Just take advantage of those kind of things in your community. But low status, not in that category.
Yeah.
Community college, guys, you can get an associate's at a low cost compared to some of the university. Again, I'm sending my kid to college. My nieces are going to college. Dude, $80,000 a year for a BA, if you're going in that direction, or a BS. It's a little bit absurd in regards to the cost of college today.
My degree is BS.
All right.
Bachelor of Science. And what's funny, what's so ironic is, if you go back to his first point, accept that living below your means requires suppressing your ego. And then his fourth point is utilize low status services.
Like I said, it was a good article, man. It stood out. Like I was like, okay, this is good. This is good.
But yeah, so for those that don't know, Hoopla, Libby, those are apps you can download. I've got Libby on my iPad, and Libby links to your library card, and you can check out books electronically for free on Libby and Hoopla as well. But Libby is the particular app that I use. So you can search electronically for whatever books the library has, and I've picked up tons of great books on Libby that I've been able to read. And
audiobook. They have videos. So guys, what we're saying to you again, tip for this one, utilize these resources. For me, they're just not low status. That's all I'm saying.
Right. They're not low status. They're great resources, even community college, all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
We've talked about free, going to the park, going to the beach.
Yeah. That's low status, apparently. Come on. Go to the beach. You can't. That's low status, because it's $5 to enjoy.
Anyway, so last point. Last point of his article, number 5.
This one, I got it. Whoa, guys, if you've already read the article, you know where we're headed here.
Pick a career that may not be your passion, but pays a decent wage.
So, Sean, let me ask you: is a lawyer in that?
It's funny though. I've said since high school I've known I wanted to be an attorney. So to an extent, yeah, this kind of is my passion, is to be an attorney, to help people, to get rid of debt, to do this podcast. It is my passion, and I'm doing what I love, but I get it. And this is actually something that my dad instilled in me, is that, if you want to do something that you love, but it makes no money, you just got to understand that.
Yeah. The people who tell you to follow your passion are already rich.
Yeah.
Rich with money, life. I got to say, I understand where they're coming from. We need a paycheck. You got to be able to pay rent. You got to be able to eat. So I totally understand that. So if you like basket weaving and that's your career, okay, great. But what they're trying to say is that going to give you a decent wage, a livable wage kind of thing. Yeah. So I get the idea here, but I've always heard it's like follow your passions, get your dream, do what you love doing itself, and work hard. Because you are different when you do what you love. When it comes to your work, you have a different demeanor. This was just for me, I was just like, oh, okay, that's a different take on it. It's like, hey, just go make money. Don't worry about it. I always said, let me tell you, I don't think it's a career if you don't have passion to it. I think it's just a job.
Right.
So I think rewording it would be like, find the job that gives you the wage you need to be able to go and follow your passions. That's how I would rephrase that. But it was just funny, like, don't pick a career. Yeah, I don't think I want to be a magician. That's I need something that will get me job, the money I need.
Again, when I lived in Miami, when I was working as an attorney in Miami, and I had finally decided, I grew up in Miami. It made me sort of who I am, or was a part of making me who I am today. But when I was living there working as an attorney, it wasn't the same place that I grew up. And I knew that I had to get out, and that's what caused me to come up here to the Tampa Bay area for a different attorney job. But I remember when I was in Miami, one of the things that I did to enjoy myself in Miami, I joined a garage band. I answered an ad in a paper and went out and auditioned. And for those that don't know, for those that are just new to the podcast, I've been playing drums since I was 10. And so answered an ad, went to an audition, joined up with 3-4 guys. We did some cover songs. We did some original songs. When I told them I was moving to Tampa to pursue my legal career, you would have thought I killed their dog. And I'm like, guys, I get it, and I love playing drums, but I know that this is not going to be my career. The law is my career so that I can play with you guys on the weekends, and so that I can play. And they were all interested in, we got this executive coming, we got that executive coming. I'm like, guys, we've been playing for 4 months. No one's taken us on the road yet to go on tour with them. Let's play some more parties. Let's have some more fun. But
that sucks the passion, you want to do it because you want to have fun. I get the fact of like, I want to make money, do these kind of things, but sometimes, that takes the fun out of the exercise itself. And that seemed to be like, okay, I like doing it, but it's not going to be full time.
Right. No, I always knew that being in that band wasn't going to be my full-time gig. Now, had we put some serious time into it and discovered and something had taken off, fine. I mean, I know plenty of podcasters that's happened to. They started a podcast as a side hustle and it ended up supporting their lifestyle. And, who knows if this podcast ends up producing a ton of money that would support us. Maybe.
Well, that's the dream, right?
Yeah.
Right. But and I love how he's just sliding in that Patreon kind of good job there.
I wasn't
Sean.
going to mention
like
it again, but thank you. But seriously, I do the podcast to support the law firm. I do the podcast to support the listeners. I don't do the podcast to make money.
Right.
The law firm is what provides for me and my family. The podcast just supports the law firm in that mission.
It's the passion project itself, and if it makes money, that's kind of the cherry on top. That's what we're looking for. So I love it, man.
So nice article, 5 money rules while you're, even the title, follow these 5 money rules while you're still young or regret it later in life.
Oh, you think he's kicking the kids off his lawn?
Probably.
Her lawn. Sorry, Megan.
But I'll put, again, it's a CNBC article. It's by an author named Morgan Housel. I'll put the links in the show notes. But it kind of got me to thinking, what are some other money rules that you have, George?
I would say, again, start early when it comes to saving, but I am not early in my life. So for me, it's now that I'm kind of on that money and financial journey, it's really more of be aggressive with the things that are important to me. So I get the article, what it's saying, and you need to buy a house and do this and do that. But you know what? What's important to me? That's my budget really is around the things that are important to me and my wife and my family. So if we're doing savings, we're getting ready for retirement and doing the things that are necessary there, but also enjoying like the vacations and enjoying the family time. Because once again, I just kicked my 18-year-old to college, and it's like I'm already sad about what's happening there too.
Yeah, we're not quite at that stage yet. My oldest is just about to turn 11, but already my wife is freaking out about he's going to be in middle school next year. Like, yeah, but he's not going that far away. He's just going to the end of the block to go to middle school. So, and I can't wait to get him out of the house just because I'm excited for what that's going to bring to him, because I know from my college experience what it did. But I agree with you there. I mean, in terms of money rules, I kind of went in a different direction. I mean, some of the things that I thought up were, proper use of a proper in quotes, as long as we're offending people. Proper in quotes use of a credit card, which I said before, basically don't spend it unless you can pay it off.
Right.
Again, savings and investing, even if it's, I'm going to take $50 from this paycheck and put it aside. I'm going to take $50 and send it to the financial advisor to invest in whatever. Taking some money and setting it aside, getting into that habit, getting into those good money
Totally
habits.
Agree with you. Totally agree.
If your employer if you're in a job that you hate but it pays you money, and your employer offers a retirement account, 401k, IRA, whatever, take advantage of the employer match. That's basically just free money for you. So you invest 3%, the employer matches 3%. That's free money for you. So definitely do that. Those are some of my money
I love, and guys, with the match, look at some company. I've heard some companies matching up to 12%. Like, oh my God, that's free money that you can take advantage of. So I totally love the tips, man. That's why it's your name's on the show, man. I love it.
Your name's on the show too.
Wait, it's in the little fine print on the.
It is much smaller font, but it's there. George and I both want to give a shout out to Lauren Keene. Lauren is the host of the Adulting is Easy podcast, where she talks to basically the younger generation about a lot of these topics that George and I talk about. Both of us independently. We're honored to be guests on her show. We'll give you all more details as those episodes come out, but definitely check out Lauren's podcast, Adulting is Easy. Before we wrap up, before we get to our second sponsor, anything else, George?
No, I would just say, just be intentional, guys, with the money and what your guys are doing. I will bring more articles, but if you guys are coming across articles or just comments on the internet itself, again, shoot us away. Send an email. Let us know. We love the interaction. We want more from you guys so that we can make this show even more for you. So let's kind of go from there.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. Thanks, George. So again, our second sponsor, mention him every week, Sam Cohen of Attorneys First Insurance. He writes errors and omissions, or E&O, basically malpractice insurance for attorneys and title companies all over the country. He loves Florida, he loves Texas, so he's focused on those two states, but really anywhere in the country. Another great way to support the show is if you know a new attorney starting up or a new title company starting up. Get him Sam's information, sam@attorneysfirst.com, or the website is attorneysfirst.com, and see if Sam can quote them on a new policy for their malpractice insurance. But other than that, I think we've pretty much gotten to the end of this week's episode. We got a couple more articles, so tune in next week and we'll bring those other articles to you next week. We'll talk about them. We'll kick them around. Thank you, George, for being the co-host again of the show.
I appreciate it. Thank you for still allowing me through the door. So I appreciate that for sure.
I probably should start locking my door on recording days. That would be a big help. But other than that, we hope that at the end of the month you have more money rather than at the end of the money you have more month. That'll do it for this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast, and we will talk to you in next week's episode.
If you have questions that you think would make a great topic for a future episode, please email Sean or connect with us on social media. Sean Yesner and Yesner Law, PL, are Florida licensed attorneys. The information contained in this week's episode is not a substitute for legal advice. Your situation may differ, especially if you are located somewhere other than the state of Florida. If you have questions, please contact our office or contact a local attorney. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast.